be here. This is just the most amazing event, and this city is incredible, and I am flanked by Capetonian businesses, which I never would have imagined. Knock, knock. I couldn't resist. Okay. Okay. So, to some extent, all of the speakers who are here, or actually to every extent, all of the speakers who are here are business people, but it's a client services business model. And but the difference is that Knock Knock is on the consumer goods business model, which is, we do graphic and product design, but we also do manufacturing, inventory, and sales. So it's a very different business model, and kind of, I've learned, fascinating unto itself, though I didn't think so when I started, because I totally fancied myself an artiste. Because to me, a business person was a man in a really bad polyester suit reading Who Moved My Cheese at the airport. And also, before I started Knock Knock, I was much more of a word person and a writer. It's what I studied in school. And after university, I moved to New York City, sort of to follow the New York City, if I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere I dream. And my first real job was in book publishing, in editing, at a company called Rizzoli, which makes coffee table books on art and architecture and culture and popular culture, which was just phenomenal. And it was at this great time in the mid-1990s when paste-up boards were going out and desktop publishing was coming in. So I was seeing really this revolution in design, in layout, in publishing. And I got to learn Quark, which I needed to know as the word side of editor. I know, laugh, Quark. Quark, they just didn't keep up. And all hail InDesign. Because I needed to enter text corrections and massage captions and so forth. And then we were always behind on our deadlines, our timelines were too short. So I ended up having what turned out to be a series of inadvertent desk side internships with some of the best designers in the country, because they're in New York and they love to do books, because they're more fun than the bread and butter annual reports. So I would say, why are you moving that to the left? Why is that red? And of course, that's an education unto itself. And at the same time, I'm in New York, I'm going to museums and art galleries, and it was like this visual feast, this awakening. And what I learned was, I was visual as well as verbal. And I had always been a maker and a crafter. My mother was a quilter, so I grew up sewing. I made handmade books, but those were just hobbies. Eventually I stole a copy of Quark, because you could still do that then, on like 40 little floppy diskettes. And I took them home onto my little Map Classic, which was like designing on a periscope, and I fed them in one by one, and I started to play. And after I left my job as an in-house editor to go freelance, in part because I wanted to have time to explore what would be my thing, because I knew that I might have a thing, but I didn't know what it was, and I hoped it wasn't contagious. The first thing that I created that I had offset printed was a holiday card for myself that we later created for Knock Knock in our first release of 13 products. That's why you see the 2003 on it. And it was a real harbinger of the Knock Knock sensibility, which was justifying my own inadequacies, which are vast. And in this case, it was my inability to get holiday cards out in December. Because there's this breed of people for whom I secretly hold contempt, who get their holiday cards out in November and December. The line goes on to totally, there's more text there. I've never seen this so big, and it doesn't hold up to the blow up. But in any case, and later when we did release it for Knock Knock, for years, because we don't do cards anymore, it was Knock Knock's best-selling holiday card. So apparently, one of the reasons for Knock Knock's success is that other people have inadequacies too. Raise your hands if you have inadequacies. Aha! Okay, so I sent it out to my friends and family, and I got a lot of, "You should sell that." And I thought, God forbid. That seemed to me like going into the widget business. And I had some inkling of the fact that that meant, setting up a pipeline. Going into sales and manufacturing and wearing a bad polyester suit and reading Who Moved My Cheese. I'm an artiste, no way. So a couple of years later, still inadequate, broke up, bad relationship. So what do? You create a flow chart. And I sent it out in February because I had missed November, December, and January. Sent it out for Valentine's Day, and again, I got, "You should sell that." And what I realized is I was still searching for my thing. By this time I'd moved to Los Angeles, and I realized that I wanted to write and design at the same time. That was a big awakening for me. Writing didn't completely fulfill me, design and visual art didn't completely fulfill me, but doing both together did. And I will tell you, I created this in Quark on the tiny little periscope screen, and these arrows just about drove me crazy. Because moving them over this, 30 by 45 inch thing, if you dropped an arrow, you had to delete it and start all over again. But that's an aside. So I decided that my thing was this book project that would bring the visual and the verbal under one umbrella. But over the 2 years I worked on it while also doing freelance editing, I procrastinated wildly. And in the meantime, I started having ideas for a business that would be united by a sensibility rather than a product category. That kind of seemed interesting to me. And that would have enough creativity to justify the business. And I kept saying, this is what I'll do after I finish the book. And finally, all this procrastination going on, and creating all these things kind of madly, because I'm not a like unproductive procrastinator. I'm a like bait and switch procrastinator. I said, this is apparently what I am doing, and I shelved the book and I started Knock Knock. I created a business plan without a single number, not knowing that most business plans have numbers. And in retrospect, I realize it's really more of a manifesto. And my assumption was that there were enough smart people out there to buy smart products from a small company that had a distinctive, non-homogenized, non-corporate, somewhat singular voice. And there was a lot less of that then. There's a lot more of it now, which makes me so happy. We were sort of at a low point of there being a lot of voice, design, writing by committee. The chain stores had kind of taken over, lowest common denominator, etc. So we would start, as I thought, and again, if you'll read up there, we was me. We would start with interesting, well-designed gift and stationery products, partly because I knew how to manufacture paper from publishing, and additionally because it's cheaper to manufacture, say, than, I don't know, cast gold. And I felt I was integrating art and commerce, which is a very artisty thing to say, and therefore did not involve polyester and cheese. And I felt it was worthwhile for me to create a pipeline for that. So my inspirations were Tibor Kalman, who looks terrible in orange up there, the Eameses, who, quote, lived their life as a studio bringing creativity to all they did, as described by another hero with whom I had written a book, the fashion designer Todd Oldham, who's an amazing human being. They would be literate and not dumbed down with a marriage of text and design. They would be fun with a gadfly sensibility, hello Plato, irreverent and truth-telling but not mean, and most importantly, we would have no clients! We would take our products to where we felt they were their very best, and the marketplace would judge them yes or no. So there. So I took an office space near my house in lovely Venice, California, a neighborhood in Los Angeles, and I thought even if we failed, I would have a place to store all my craft supplies. So we're still there, and now we actually have 3 of these spaces, and they're a bit more kitted out. And my sales strategy was to come out with a keepsake catalog that people couldn't ignore for our initial line of 13 products and cards. And in September 2002, 6 months after starting, I and my team of about 4, plus friends and family, mailed it out to 1,500 retailers that we cribbed from other websites, where to find us lists. And I traveled to New York and managed to get meetings with some of my favorite retailers, all of whom placed orders and also recommended me to sales reps, which I had never heard of. The personal library kit was our first hit product, born out of personal experience of losing my books by lending them out. It's actually still in production in a refreshed format, and we've sold about 70,000 total of these. The wishing kit was our first noble failure of that release. Nobody understood it because it didn't adhere to the 3-second rule, which does not mean when you drop your food and eat it. It means that a customer doesn't get what a product is in 3 seconds. It doesn't matter how cool it is because he or she will just walk by. I still love it, we incorporate the lessons we learn over the years, but we still keep the integrity, I think, of the products. Because we do want things to sell. We also had wrapping paper. This first batch was made from old matchbooks and postcards I'd collected from eBay. I'm a total ephemera collector. Creating product was one thing, but fulfilling and manufacturing it was another. I had this awful software for order entry. It was impossible to manage. We were assembling the product and shipping it out ourselves. I'd never done any of this before, neither had my employees, and I was definitely confronting the difference between creativity and business. In 2003, I learned about trade shows. This is the Javits Center in New York City, manufacturing overseas and third-party fulfillment. We lost money on our first product line, manufacturing domestically. It's almost impossible to compete manufacturing in the United States. Domestic manufacturing costs about 3 times what it does to manufacture in China. I went to China with a manufacturing broker who just happened to be in our office complex. He became a good friend and a business mentor who just happened to be stealing many hundreds of thousands of dollars from us over about 4 years. And he's no longer a good friend and mentor. Lessons learned, I didn't have a contract with him. I put all my eggs in his rather rotten basket. And I also did not do competitive bidding for 4 years. Members of my team now handle the overseas manufacturing, but as you can imagine, and as some of you have probably experienced, it's quite a learning curve, just the communication and negotiation alone. The Pro Con Pad was a huge hit in our second release, and our first classic Knock Knock Pad. We've sold about 84,000 of these, and pads in multiple shapes and sizes account for about 25% of our business. During 2003 and 4, we were a huge success out of the gate, which was its own challenge, and I had no idea that success could be so difficult. It felt like there was this giant wave at our backs as we ran to keep up, trying to fulfill all the orders. We had switched from fulfilling ourselves to a third-party fulfillment company known as Pick, Pack, and Ship, they were incompetent, and it turned out fraudulent, long story, but a quarter of the orders were filled unsuccessfully. We never knew if we were in stock or out of stock because they didn't keep inventory accurately, and because it was overseas, replenishment turnaround was 90 days. It was a sales and customer service nightmare until we switched again. This is one of my favorite products ever, the multiple choice correspondence notebook. We no longer do greeting cards, but they were once a really important part of our business. The multiple choice format continues to be one of the most popular things that we do. Takeout's really big in the US, our takeout menu organizer. Slang flashcards for if you're over 30, nerdy, uncool, or simply suburban. You can get hip in mere days. We expanded this wheel of wisdom into our best-selling book, The Complete Manual of Things That Might Kill You, which you'll see later. So our motto is we put the fun in functional, and I like to say not to mention dysfunctional, which I hope I'm demonstrating pretty clearly up here. And you know, we are very much ourselves, and I think one of the reasons we resonate with customers is that we're very honest about who we are so that people can see themselves in our products. And if you're going to have a company that's based on personality, it must be very much itself, especially in writing. One of our MOs is to do seemingly unworthwhile things in an exhaustive way, and that's what's funny and insightful about it. I mean, every husband or wife has this running through their brains in fine print, right? So this came from that wheel that you saw. You know, a guide to self-diagnosis for hypochondriacs. It's organized by symptom. We enjoy poking fun at sacred cows. We desensitize and diffuse fears by taking things further than you thought they could go. This is our best-selling book series with over 300,000 sold. They're cloth with gold stamping. It's like a pocket Cyrano de Bergerac. Our inner truth journals, the idea of putting on the outside of journals what you use them for. Self-inking stamps. A couple weeks ago, I'm reading People magazine, and I learned that Jennifer Aniston, this is in People magazine, and when asked what it's like to have a body over 40, she lifts her shirt and she has stamped WTF on her midriff with one of our stamps. How cool is that? We are pimping that as far as it can go in the press. Our big breakup recovery kit, our latest sticky notes inspired by our classic hats. This is a refresh on our earliest flashcards. You saw the slang. This is foodie. Our motto is we put the fun in functional, so we also have things on the functional side. This is our best seller of all time, as a matter of fact. We sold over 400,000. Our wholesale catalogs, 94% of our business is wholesale to retailers or distributors versus 6%, which is direct to consumer on our website. We do a lot of customized products for big retailers like Target and Office Max and Michaels and Borders, but for reasons of time, which I've already gone over, we can't. I'm not showing that to you today. Of our wholesale business, 8% is international wholesale, which is actually bigger than it sounds like because we've added a bigger discount. I'm saying top line revenue, but this is growing and hopefully to South Africa. Interior, homepage of our website, a little bit about how we actually make and move the goods around today. Gotta love a flow chart. Starts off making it. We always do a lot around the specs and costing to make sure we can afford it. Manufacturing, customs, third-party warehouse, pick, pack, and ship. Orders are done with the sales reps and everybody over there. Goes up into our system, invoices go out, money does or doesn't come in, routing guide, etc., publicity, marketing, the world, our bank account, both are black, I don't know why. We put on 3 trade shows a year. This is what it looks like, though not quite as dark. Our reps and distributors put on about 30 additional ones in their territories. There are about 22 of us now. This is a little bit outdated. We've expanded in digital marketing and customer service. Digital's really big right now, have you heard? Our sales reps are independent and commission-based, about 115 in the US. The international distributors have their own sales forces, and our manufacturers and third-party fulfillment providers have their own teams as well. The most important part of our team, our mascot, my dog, Maisie. Thank you.